Hello, I'm Dave Gardy from US Vets TV studios near Washington, D.C. for this special presentation, the 7th Veteran Entrepreneurship Training Series program. And we have veterans from around the country tuning in, veteran-owned companies, and those that are interested in becoming veteran-owned companies. Service-disabled veteran-owned companies, we welcome you to the 7th one, the one just prior to the summit, which will take place in February out in California. And to talk a little bit about that, I'm going to go to Al Renteria from Ops for Vets. Al, you there?
Dave, I'm here. Happy New Year. What a great way to start the new year with some great stuff. We got some great guests. I'll let you introduce them. But I want to start off the new year with sporting my new hat, my Christmas gift from my grandson, and talk about the impossible. You know, what you and I enjoy is taking the impossible and make it possible. But this year, I'm going to talk about the business battle buddies. And with me is my book that says Marine Battle Skills Training Handbook. For us veterans, this is what we've done during our career, rather be short-term, long-term, and business is all about the battle. So today, I believe your guest there is going to tell us how best to play the battlefield.
You look like ZZ Top. It's quite a look for you. But before we get into that, can you give us just a little overview about what will be happening in February out there?
Well, you know, I'm gonna defer that to Stan because I want him to tell us his perspective now that he's our CEO for Southwest Veteran Business Resource Center. But I got to tell you this much: we got 40,000 square feet, 2-day event. We're gonna keep everybody in house. We're gonna feed them until they're fat with information, and they don't have to pay for that. But let's see what Stan has to say.
Every girl loves a sharp-dressed man. Thank you, Al. I appreciate it. We're going to introduce Stan now, our first speaker today. We've got quite a program here. Stan Fuji is the Southwestern Veterans Business Resource Center, or SWVBRC CEO. He's live here in our studio. Stan, thanks for joining us. Maybe you could tell us about the February Summit.
I was really hoping it was going to be Al. Thank you, Al. So we're having the summit. It's coming up February 27th, 28th. We have a really good program set up. We're going to be having it from everything from having a really good portion on networking, developing the part where you're going to try to help you get in front of decision makers for the government and for the commercial side. So you can go out there and market what you do and try to get them to be convinced that you're the best person out there to provide the product or service that they're looking for. We're going to have breakout sessions with different training programs going on. We're going to have a whole session that's just set up just for women veterans. So we have a lot to look forward to.
Excellent. Now, give us a little overview for the people tuning in for the first time that don't know much about the Southwestern Veterans Business Resource Center. What is that all about?
We're really just a nonprofit set up. We're getting ready to celebrate our 10th year. We're looking at focusing on helping veterans figure out how to get into business. It's kind of odd because our mission is to help resolve the issue of homeless vets. But we're doing that through if you're going through your career or if you want to go through business, we really want to help you with that business section. We want to be that one-stop shop of helping you from where do I go to set up my business, how do I get my business plan set up, where do I go to do business development, how do I do business development, how do I find financing, who are some resources and battle buddies that I might be able to find. And also that's why we're bringing Tony on later, because we want to talk about different types of mentoring out there for both federal and commercial so that you can find a battle buddy and work it all out.
So give us an overview of some of the other things you were going to tell us about today.
What I really wanted to talk about was going out there and I know, like for myself, when I do a lot of things, I like to do it on my own. I believe that if I'm going to accomplish something, I want that full possession. And that's great for a lot of businesses when you get started because you're the one, you're the name, you're the face, you're the one who goes out and does everything. But as you start to develop, as you start to grow, you have to find some teaming partners, other folks in your network. You have to build a network so that you can now rely on other folks, because to try to do it on your own is almost impossible. I found out for myself, I was trying to get into another networking group, and so I had to call on a couple of my friends, sat there and said, hey, do you know anyone who belongs to this other organization? They said, yeah, let me make some intros, and then that helped me glide into some other affiliates. So in some of the nonprofits that I work with, I'm now related to a lot of them because, and I got onto the board of a couple of them just because I networked with other people and brought it all together. It's not something I would have been able to do on my own. I had to have teammates to do that. And that folds into business, because as you're growing your business, you're going to find out that this may be where you're good at, but as your business starts to grow, you may start to fumble a little bit because you can't handle it all. So I may need now to start delegating things out to other people, or hiring some other subcontractors or teaming partners. I may need to go out and find some mentors. And the mentor doesn't necessarily have to be in your field. I do consulting, but I do a lot of sort of discussions, brainstorming with a lot of folks that I know that are in construction or IT, because the concepts that they have, how they develop their business is really amazing. One of the best mentors I had was in construction. And if you're wondering why would a consultant have a mentor who's in construction, it's because think of a general contractor. What is the one thing that they have? They have the ability to look at a plan, get the plan implemented, make sure that all licenses, certificates, inspections, everything has to be done on a certain timeline. During that time frame, as a general contractor, they're not the ones that are doing everything. They have someone doing the excavation. They have someone doing concrete. They have someone doing siding, plumbing, electrical, whatever it may be. Everyone has to be at that particular place at the same time. Or at the right time, not same time, but the right time, so that the project meets its timeline. Same thing with manufacturing. If you look at manufacturing plants, they have to do the same thing. They have to make sure everything's going on. They have to make sure they have supplies coming in at the proper timeline. Otherwise, they're going to fall behind schedule. So I love having mentors that have this wide variety or diversity of stuff that they can teach me, because then that helps me grow and helps me grow my business and helps me help other folks.
Now, one of the things we try to do is outreach to the veteran-owned companies that participate with this and communicate with them. And one of the things that always seems to pop up is financing. Growing your business, insulating it for capital issues that arise, like cash flow. You may have a federal contract this happens where you won't get paid on it right away. You're going to have to wait to get payment. You still have to pay subcontractors and people. Give us some perspective of how important financing is, because that's a little bit of a theme for the program today. Because one of our new sponsors that's coming on board is Amerifi at AMERIFI, Amerifi.com, which wants to outreach to veteran-owned businesses to help them finance. And we've worked with this company. So financing, give us your perspective on that.
It's the lifeline of the company. If you don't have the finances, if you don't have the money coming in, what are you going to do? So you're going to sit there and you're going to borrow off your credit cards. You're going to ask family and relatives and friends for financing. You can go to the other side, which is I'm going to go to the bank. If I'm going to go to the bank, like for myself, I really built a relationship with the bank VPs and the folks that are over there, because when I walk in the door, I want them to know who I am. I don't produce a lot of income. I don't have a very large business, but when I walk in, it's kind of like, oh, Stan, you're here, or Mr. Fuji, you're here. It's like, what do you need? It's like, oh, I just came in to do a deposit, or I'm looking at what are the best ways to get a line of credit or financing, because I just need a little bit more money to do this other project. And they're like, oh, let's come on in, come in our office, let's discuss it. You got to have that hands-on working relationship with your bank. And then if your bank isn't providing that, go find one that will. And then I came from the U.S. Small Business Administration, and if you need help, go to them. Find out what banks in your area do small business loans, which ones are really small business friendly, which ones do the most loans, what types of loans, because different banks do different types of loans. So if you just need working capital, there may be certain branches that do that. And if you're going to another bank that doesn't really concentrate on that, you're not going to get it. Or if you need receivable financing, there's only a few banks out there that really focus on receivable financing and understand it. So you want to find a bank that does that. And there's resources like Small Business Development Centers, SBA, Economic Development Centers, whoever it may be. And then for veterans, the Veterans Business Outreach Centers, VBOX, you can go to those as well and find out, where can I go to get that done? And that's where, again, you got to have your network, you got to have your financing in place. Start off easy. Always go to the bank that you're doing business with now, and then if they can help you, great. If they can't help you, don't turn them away. You can always open up another account at another bank, while keeping your existing bank. You never want to ruin a relationship with a bank.
Yeah, you make a very good point, and I think receivables financing, also known as factoring invoices, selling your invoices basically, is an area where I think can help a lot of these veteran-owned companies that are waiting just to get paid by the federal government, especially if it's a federal invoice. Any contracting invoice, that's money in the bank and to them. You're going to pay a premium for getting that money up front, but if you're in a cash flow bind, you need something like that. Now you mentioned the SBA. Do you have any perspective or feeling for how good the SBA 7A loan program is?
Coming from the SBA, it's the best thing.
Now you can give us your opinion.
It's a really neat program. The main thing you have to realize is what exactly are you looking for? What type of financing are you looking for? Where is your company? Is your business plan up to date? Because without a business plan, you walk into the bank, they may talk to you, but when you start talking about real money and real financing, they're going to look at you and say, well, you're not really in business. You're not really looking at it. Folks that are out there that you already have your business plan already set up, and I'm not talking about like a couple pages. I'm talking about you know exactly where you're going and what you're going to do with that money. When you walk into the bank, it's almost like you get that one shot. It's like meeting an in-law for the first time, or future in-law. You're going in there. You want to put your best presentation forward. You want to have your act together. You want to show that this is my business. This is where I'm going with it. This is where I'm at right now. And let them know exactly where you're at. I mean, this is a handshake relationship because you're building something that you want to grow with them, and you want to find out, because you're actually interviewing them, are you going to be able to help me grow to where I want to be, and do you do the type of financing I'll need? Because this is how I see myself now. I may be 100,000, I may be $1 million company, but in the next 3 years, 5 years, this is how I'm going to be expanding. A firm that I know fairly well sat there and has expanded like 5-fold. So you're talking about a couple 100,000s now doing several million. And if you think about the banking relationship they had, if they didn't tell the bank, I'm getting ready to explode in my business and this is where I'm going to be, they would not have been able to finance a lot of that.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing to deal with when you sit in this great opportunity, but you don't have the cash flow in place and financing to do it, which is something you really want to plan ahead of time, especially for rainy day situations, such as the federal government might shut down on Friday. If you're a federal government contractor, your projects don't get awarded, maybe your work doesn't get done because you can't get access to the federal agency, and you will not get paid during any federal shutdown. Depending on the agency, DoD a little different because they're essential. But any thoughts on the rainy day thing, where you got to be ready for something?
I always believe you should. It's one of my mentors sat there and said, I'm not planning for today. I'm planning for 3-4 generations down. Because I want to make sure that my not only my kids, but my grandkids, my great-great-grandkids are taken care of. Same thing with your business. You want to make sure that you're not looking at how am I doing today. It's like everything like for myself that I'm focused on is 5 years from now. Where am I going to be?
Which brings up the story of exit strategy. Exit strategy is always important. If you want to hand your business off to your grandkids, and that's fine too, and keep it a family-owned business, but you always want to have in place some kind of exit strategy, which is always part of a business plan, especially if you're going after investors, because the investors are going to want to get that feedback. Well, how do you plan to get us our return on our investment?
Yeah, and you want to have that actually in your business plan. It's like, this is my succession plan. I plan to grow my business. I plan to be on it for X number of years. Like for myself, I plan to grow my business for the next 5 to 10 years. Hopefully not that long, but if I could do it in 5, great. And then I want to sit there and say, now, is this something that will run itself? Because that's the way I really want it to be, because my business is really about networking business together and different consultants together to get things done. If it can start to run itself, then I can pass that on to either those other associates that I have, or I could pass it down to my niece and sit there and say, okay, it's yours if you want it. I understand that you're working. She's also working in the federal government, and if she wants to continue that path, that's great. But if I have a business that's producing, even if it's producing residual income, this potentially is going to be yours in the future.
Excellent. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, you need to sit there and really look at if you can be out in the Southern California area at the end of February. It's going to be a great place to be. We're going to have a lot of networking. We're going to have a lot of decision makers, and a lot of different agencies and the commercial side companies have decided they're going to be there, so, or pledged to be there. So we're going to have a really good show.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to seeing you out there, either from here, where we may be broadcasting a live webcast from representatives here who will be participating. Haven't decided how exactly that's going to work. That's something Al and I have to talk about, but it should be a blast, and it's February 27th and 28th. And just because you mentioned your business, is there a website if people are interested in knowing what you do?
Yeah. I do a lot of my stuff just purely by word of mouth.
Okay. So is there a web address that they should go to?
No.
Oh, you don't have a website?
I don't have one.
Oh, we got to talk about that. All right. So, coming up, I want to go to a roll-in video from one of our sponsors, Joe Basligo, who is a Vietnam veteran, who started a company called the Biosecurity Company, which actually has antimicrobial impregnated hospital clothing that prevents infection, a big deal considering the number of deaths in hospitals that are related to infection each year. Now, he's also looking to sell to the VA. He's trying to finance his company. We're going back to an interview. He couldn't make the one today, so we're going to do the first one we did earlier in 2017 about his company. And we're going to go to that roll-in right now, and then we'll come back with Tony Island. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Dave Gardy from US Vets TV studios near Washington, D.C. for this special presentation in preparation for the Vets Training Webcast. With me in the studio right now is Joe Basligo, who's CEO of a company called the Biosecurity Company. Joe, what is the Biosecurity Company?
The Biosecurity Company is a manufacturing company that specializes in healthcare clothing that has been impregnated, infused in manufacturing with an antimicrobial to help prevent infections, and this antimicrobial allows the garments to hold its protection for up to 100 washings.
Wow. So give us an overview about some of the products that you guys manufacture.
We, the full line that you would find in a hospital, patient gowns, surgical gowns, scrubs, nurses' smocks, but we even also do sheets, pillowcases, cubicle curtains.
Now, what distinguishes you from other providers of those type of clothing?
Well, the first and most important thing is that we manufacture our own garments we actually make the fabric. We treat the fabric, we cut, we sew, and then we ship. We have a warehouse in New York. That's the first part. Where we infuse the fibers with the antimicrobial, no one is doing that today. And no one has an antimicrobial like we have that will kill bacteria and viruses and protect the patient as well as the staff that's in the hospital.
Interesting point. Now, why should people buy your products? Why hospitals and medical centers? What do they need them for?
Well, healthcare acquired infections, more people die from them, than all of the auto accidents and gun violence combined. Our products offer not just the antimicrobial benefits of it, but also odor control, as you would find in a hospital, reference to the smells of urine or the feces, so forth. The most important thing that you have to realize, if you've ever been in an emergency room and you see those curtains around you, can you imagine when they were changed last? Who was in that bed before you with some disease that you could possibly get while you're in the hospital there for something else?
I see. So give us an overview about the history of the company and how it evolved.
Well, as you know, I am also a service-disabled veteran. And a friend of mine, been in the clothing business all my life, and a very, very close friend of mine that I grew up with, and we've served together in Vietnam, in the war over there, that he succumbed down to the Agent Orange and got cancer. And Terry used to complain to me about when he goes for treatment, how cold he gets. So I made him a garment that had double-ended zippers that goes from the sleeve cuff up to the neck that allows access to the portals. He doesn't have to get undressed. It'll keep him warm. Once he opens up the portal, for the portal, you will see that that after they're hooked up to the treatment, they can close it and he can sit there and still stay warm.
Interesting. And that's how the company evolved?
Yes, and from that, then we went and saw that the problem in a hospital with diseases that people are picking up, this health care acquired infections, that we started searching for antimicrobials. Then we saw this as a whole industry. I made a lot of garments and gave them to the VA in Baltimore, the hospital. They loved them. Originally given to the dialysis departments, but the chemotherapy used them also. So they just grabbed them all up. I gave them a couple hundred.
So what are you looking for to build the company?
We have manufacturing well taken care of, but our problems right now, we need help with sales and marketing. I am looking for someone that's an investor that could take control or provide the financial ware to hire someone that would take control of all advertising and marketing.
And could it also be an investor that would invest in it, and then you would take that money and hire a company like that?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
That's an option.
And the monies that they would be investing, of course, we would be giving them stock for it, but that money would all be used for sales and marketing. We don't. I have manufacturing already covered, and like I said, we have a warehouse already in New York.
Excellent. So if people want to find out more and get in communication with you, where should they go?
Well, you can go to our website, which I'm going to show up on the screen here in a minute. There's the Biosecurity Company with our address in Baltimore. They can email me directly at joseph@thebiosecuritycompany.com, or they can go in and look at our website at www.thebiosecuritycompany.com.
Excellent. Well, Joe, thanks so much for giving us the presentation and also being a sponsor for the VETS Webcast for Veteran Entrepreneurial Training Series that we're doing on. This is Dave Gardy here with Joe Busligo from our studios near Washington, D.C. for the special US VETS TV presentation. Thanks for joining us. That was Joe Busligo from the Biosecurity Company, a very interesting company, and we thank him for being a sponsor for the program. With me now here in the studio, back at US VETS TV, is Anthony Island, who's lead program facilitator and instructor at eAdvantage, the VA Business Accelerator. Anthony, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having
Call
me
you
here
Tony. Give us some perspective. What is eAdvantage?
Well, eAdvantage is a IT firm that was established approximately 11 years ago that the owner of the company is a catastrophically disabled Army veteran who found a passion for assisting service-disabled veterans. When he came back from one of his injuries, he sat in Walter Reed for over a year. And what he did was he noticed all the individuals sitting there doing nothing. And a lot of them he knew could be small business owners. And that's what inspired him to start this.
Now, this mentor-protege aspect of it, what is a mentor-protege program?
A mentor-protege program is any relationship where one person has knowledge that they can pass on to another individual that can help that person improve their position in life.
Well, that's a pretty good definition. Who manages mentor-protege programs?
Well, there's two different types of phases. There's one that's federal, and then you have commercial. The federal, it focuses primarily on government rules for contracting, for procurement. And the second, on the commercial side, is more focused on, can we be a profitable business? Can we expand our market share? Can we, if it's a non-for-profit, possibly reach a different group of people?
Okay. Now, which mentor-protege plan is the best one to participate in?
Ooh, see, that's a loaded question because it depends on the mission. If you are a group, let's say you're a non-for-profit, and your focus is, I want to get more people or I want to reach a particular mission, then a mentor protege program going through just personal one-on-one would be valuable. And it doesn't have to have established rules and procedures and protocols outside of what you create. But if you are a young service disabled veteran company that wanted to sell items to the federal government, you need to find an established program, you need to find an established company that knows how to do that within that industry, and then allow you to move forward.
Now that's a good question. Are there mentor protege programs for every industry, like for instance the internet TV production industry?
Well, kind of funny to bring that up. That was the program that I was pretty much running when I was at GSA. While I was the mentor protege coordinator, I had all the GSA schedules that would fall under me, and you would have fallen under that. And what we would have done is you would have approached me and you would have said, I want to do this. I have a particular larger company that wants to assist me, or you maybe could have come as the mentor and brought a very small production company with you as the protege, and you would have interacted with me. I would have been your facilitator.
So what makes a mentor protege program worthwhile to pursue?
Well, most individuals know there's something they do not know, they don't understand. They're missing that key ingredient that will allow them to make the cake or to whatever they want to produce. When they're sitting down and realize what they don't know, that's when they need a mentor protege program. Somebody has got to help them reach the next level on their phase of development. Mentors will always be there. They're all in every walk of life. It's how you shape them to fit in what you're doing and where you want to go with it. So my encouragement has always been to individuals, if you want to improve your lot in life, find a mentor. Find someone that's smarter than you, find someone that's more experienced than you and established. They can share rules, regulations, policies, best practices. And sometimes what you need is a friend.
Right.
In the universe.
And sometimes mentors also serve as contact points for other referrals to
Pure
other
networking.
things. Yep, very much so. Now you mentioned the GSA where you were in the Office of Small Business Utilization.
OSBU, yes.
People hear GSA all the time, especially people learning about federal procurement. What is GSA and what outreach programs do they have for small business?
Well, the biggest outreach program they have, at least while I was still participating, was allowing small businesses to understand how to do contracting. We had a team that was extremely focused on cradle to grave. You're a brand new company that wants to go into federal contracting. So what we would do is we would sit you down and educate you on the entire policy and work you to that end point where you'd get your first schedule and get your first contract.
Interesting. I'm going to open it up for questions. Al, I was taking some of these questions off the web here, but Al, do you have any questions for Tony?
Yeah, first of all, Tony, it's good to see that you joined forces and trying to grow the beer as long as I am. I thank you for that. But here's the real question. We talked earlier about mentor protege, DOD versus non-DOD. Explain that. The program is good. It's been vibrant. But a lot of folks out there have no clue that exists or how to engage with the government mentor protege program. Tell us about that.
Okay. It completely depends on what your industry is and what your goal is. If you are a service disabled veteran and you want to have a mentor protege program, I would recommend you look towards the SBA first and foremost. They have the best starting point if you're going to do federal contracting. If you are a medium-sized business that produces something that the federal government truly needs in the defense industry, then you look at DOD. If you were a power generator, let's say you did something with solar power, Department of Energy would be the one you would use. There are not a lot of mentor protege programs left that are very isolated. SBA has brought most of them under one umbrella, but there still are 2 or 3 that are isolated that are very niche market. But DOD is always going to be the 800-pound gorilla when it comes to, that's the largest mentor protege program, and after that, SBA by all hands down.
Any other questions, Al?
Yeah, going on that. When there's a government-driven mentor protege, and these organizations that agree to that program, are they mandated to have a certain business under their wing, or is it, space available? Is it available now? So if I wanted to go consider that opportunity, what would I uncover? There's no space. wow, I can do this? I mean, I know you've been retired from that program quite some time, but what would be my expectations to engage, and what would be my criteria to be part of that program?
Okay. Again, right now the SBA has the rules, and when it takes care of everything for the general mentor-protege agreement, that would be at the federal government. But to answer your question about specific, the last time I checked, Department of Energy is the only one that has a true mission-driven, that it's energy related, very, very focused, and it has a small participation group. But while it has a small participation group, there are guaranteed contracts that are kind of locked into that because they're set more as grants or as to fill niche needs. DoD is somewhat in the same vein because it's industry driven. You're bidding on things that are very specifically focused on mission. Everything else is all fair game.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, we appreciate the time you've taken. It's very informative, Tony. And if people want to find out more about eAdvantage, which is, where should they go, especially service-disabled veterans?
Oh, they can go to eadvantage.com. That's our main site. Or they can go to our website, Center for Business Acceleration.
Okay.
And that will also tell you exactly what we're doing in conjunction with the VA and what we're doing for catastrophically disabled veterans.
And that, again, this is a VA Business Accelerator. What is that?
Well, it's called the VA Business Accelerator because when we set all this up, we did it through the VA, and we patent and trademarked the name.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Again, we've been talking to Tony Island, who is the lead program facilitator and instructor at eAdvantage. That's eadvantage.com. Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us, Tony.
Thank you for having me.
Next, we're going to go to a Skype out to California, but not Al. We've got somebody out there, Matthew Christian, who is there at the JPL lab, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. Matthew, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good to see you, Matt. Now, I've got a...
Great to see you, too.
Okay, I've got your slideshow here. We've got the first slide on it, but before we begin, just tell us what you do out there at JPL.
Yes, of course. So as he was pretty much introducing myself, I am part of the Small Business Programs Office. I am a small business administrator, so I help aid, support, and counsel small businesses that are interested in working with JPL. So some of the tasks I do is that, like, for anyone that's interested in working with JPL, they can send me their information, and I can put it into our supplier database. I help them find the points of contact that they need here at JPL that can possibly find any scope of work. And just other tasks are also going out to outreach events to be able to connect with other small business communities.
Now, for the benefit of the laymen in the audience who don't know about JPL, what is Jet Propulsion Laboratories?
Oh, perfect. Actually, it was actually on my presentation. It's actually the second slide.
Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and go to the second slide, which we will, and we'll let you go ahead and give your presentation, Matthew. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Before I begin, I just want to let you and Al know I greatly appreciate the opportunity. On behalf of my team and on behalf of JPL, we greatly appreciate the opportunity for me to speak and be able to talk about ourselves.
Okay, so we're on the What is JPL logo.
Okay, perfect. So what I want to show you is on that diagram. As you can see on the diagram, it has NASA at the top, and then JPL, and then Caltech. All right, thank you for putting up the slide for me. So on that slide, why I wanted to bring this up is because a lot of times, especially in the public view, when people look at JPL, they automatically assume that we are a NASA center. I want to reiterate, though, that we are not actually a NASA center. We are a prime contractor for NASA. We hold a prime contract with them. We're a federally funded research and development center. We are not civil servants ourselves. We are actually managed by Caltech, so we are considered Caltech employees. We are just administered under the scope of JPL. But typical work that we do is we do NASA projects and missions. So we do like rovers, satellites, and engineering support, and we do support NASA on their missions and projects like a center. But we are a prime contractor, actually.
Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide.
Yes, please. That'd be great. So to talk about what SBPO, what my office does, I wanted to talk to you guys about what our goal is. Because every time I look at a goal, I always think it's the best way to describe ourselves. So as I was pretty much saying in my introduction, our office, what we do is we help aid, counsel, and assist in the interest of small business concerns. So when small businesses want to come to us, we are the forefront people or the middlemen that help try to reach them out to the technical people here on lab. And why that's important to us is because it helps free competitive enterprise. It helps us gives competition for small businesses and large businesses. It helps diversify our suppliers, and also it helps strengthen our mission as a whole. We want to be able to reach the missions. We want to be able to finish our projects. And so reaching out to different small businesses in different communities helps us achieve that goal even better.
Okay,
All right, can you go to the next slide, please?
there you go.
All right, thank you, perfect. So on this slide, I wanted to show you what small business concerns that our office identifies under. So we identify the following 7 small businesses, of course: small disadvantaged businesses, women-owned small businesses, hub zones, veteran-owned small businesses, service-disabled veteran-owned, and historically Black colleges and universities / minority institutes. I'm gonna go into more detail about about veteran-owned, service-disabled veteran-owned, more into the presentation. I just want to give you a list of all the different types of concerns or categories we identify. So you can go to the next slide, please. All right, thank you very much. So this is our subcontracting goals and achievements for the fiscal year 2017. I wanted to project this slide to you guys, just so you know what goals that we negotiate with NASA and how we achieve those goals. So if you can see, I know it's a small print, but if you can see, for example, in small business, our goal was 26%. We went above, went 28%. Other goals that we achieved are the ones listed in green. So small disadvantaged businesses, women-owned small businesses, veteran-owned small businesses, and then service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. The only ones that we were unable to achieve was hub zone and HBCUs. But on the next slide, I am going to show you in particular veteran-owned and service-disabled, so you can get a closer view of it. So if you can go to the next slide for me. All right, thank you very much. So with a combined effort of veteran-owned small businesses and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, as you can see on our goals, our current goal for veteran-owned small business is 1.11 and service-disabled veteran-owned is 0.063. But if you can see what we achieved, we not only met those goals, we actually doubled in both those goals, and even made a subcontracting value of almost $50 million with that combined effort. So we have had a lot of needs in those areas, and we have achieved a lot in those categories. Now, some of you viewers may be wondering why our goals are so low compared to federal government goals, which is typically 3%. The reasoning why is reiterating back to why we are actually a prime contractor instead of actual government for NASA. So we are not the government ourselves, so that's the reason why our goals are lower than 3%. These are the goals that we actually negotiate with NASA administration. And what I wanted to show you on the right, though, was our highest ranking veteran-owned small businesses that we have here on lab. Number 1 being, this is for 2017, by the way, I forgot to point that out, but number 1 being Millennium Engineering and Integration Company. They are a veteran-owned small business located in Virginia. They specialize in engineering support, solutions, and services for U.S. government, defense, space, healthcare, and other industries. And how they work with JPL is they're actually part of a multi-year award contract called MEDALS. It has a long title. It stands for Multi-Engineering Divisional Design, Analysis, and Lab-wide Support Contract. I know it's a very long title, but for that contract, what it entails is that this small business and 2 other small businesses were awarded this contract. The other 2 were called Zen Technology, and the third one was called Sierra Lobo. These three small businesses were awarded this contract, and what it gave them is the opportunity to compete against one another for engineering services that we have mainly in our 3X division, which is JPL's largest division, and it's the Engineering and Science division. And then for our second one, Thundercat Technology, what they are is a small disadvantaged business and a service-disabled very known small business located also in Virginia. What they specialize is in IT work for mainly focusing in the federal government. How they incorporate with JPL is they're actually a JPL Star Award winner. What the JPL Star Award is it's an award that we give out to 2 to 3 small businesses each fiscal year, showing like a business that went in a sense above and beyond in their excellent work here at JPL, and what they were awarded for was for their excellent service for many years. And then for the third one is Lithium Corp. Lithium Corp is actually a company located here in California. What they specialize in is in actually ground command systems, and how they support us is they support us through software updates for our command systems actually, and they also support us with the system administration as well. And yeah, so can we go to the next slide? All right, thank you. So how can you reach out to us at JPL? We actually have a few ways that you can reach out to us. Typically, our first way is reaching out to by signing a JPL supplier profile form. It is a form that we have that you submit to our office that briefly describes your company. It gives us a point of contact that we can contact in case we ever want to contact you. And also it gives us what type of socioeconomic groups you fall under. It pretty much indicates all the information that we need for our end. And how you can find this is under step 1 of 8 and on our website, which is actually listed down here. So Al and Dave, feel free to post this presentation so people can get links to those so they can be able to contact us. So if you go on step 1 of 8, it will show on their JPL supplier form. You click that link, you fill out that form, you submit it to our mailbox. The mailbox is actually on our next slide, so you'll be able to have access to that as well. Our second thing is we have counseling sessions as well. These are sessions these sessions give you the opportunity for you to request to come to lab or give us a conference call to actually meet with myself and other members of my team. So what we can do for you is and why it benefits you is that you can make a business relationship for us. We can also possibly find you points of contacts here on lab that you can possibly speak to or meet or be able to talk to, or even points of contact we have with some of our other primes that we work with. Or even better, we can also possibly even find a technical person that if you meet the requirements that we're looking for, we can find a technical person here on lab to actually come to one of the counseling sessions so you can meet them in person. They can facilitate the meeting and actually give their opinions on things as well. So this just to end this off, for any questions that you guys have about how to do business with JPL, the mailbox is right there. Just send it to us. Also, my point of contact information is at the very bottom as well if you want to personally talk to me personally.
Excellent. Really appreciate the presentation, Matthew. Just had a couple questions that have come in.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Can you give us an overview when you mentioned those veteran-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, are those VA verified or are they self-certified or are they both? Can you give us some perspective on that? They're
both. They have to be both certified in that matter. So yeah. So that was your question, right? If they had to be self-certified or VA certified.
Yeah. Or are they both? I mean, we have both VAs. Yeah. You're giving contracts to both VA verified and self-certified veteran-owned businesses.
Yes, they're both VA and self-certified.
Okay, that's a good question. The other question somebody came into, somebody wants to know where you get the cool logo shirt that you're wearing. Is that available anywhere?
Oh yeah, actually, it's actually available in our JPL store. Actually, we have a bunch of stuff. They actually even have a NASA jacket. It's one of those astronaut bomber style jackets as well. I actually have it here with me.
Well, good. I'm going to turn it over to Al. Al, any questions for Matthew?
Yes, Dave. Matthew, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. You know, our purpose here is to get the word out. You've introduced many things, and I encourage you to take 2 jackets, 2 polo shirts to the summit and make it a prize for the guy that you think deserves it. So, you know, everybody viewing, JPL is going to be there. But here's the real question. You know, I understood your stats, the balance. You don't control the outcome of the 1.1%. Naturally, we're going to want to be able to assist you to make it 2 points at least.
Yeah, of course.
So for the summit, tell us what you like to do. I asked you about a technical guy coming in to be at the round table. What we want to do is optimize the summit twofold. One for you to get a larger reach of suppliers, and the suppliers being able to find you at the summit for 2 days. What can we ask of you? Because if you give me everything, I'm going to take that plus some. 2 jackets and 2 polo shirts, as an example. What can we ask of you, and what can we do to push people to come see you?
Okay, perfect. So what we do is we're going to be part of the matchmaking. So we're going to be having a booth. Typically, what would we be looking for is that, especially for companies that, for example, have related NASA experience, that is a huge benefactor to us. I would definitely, if you want to come and talk to us, I would definitely bring that up, because that is a huge factor for not only us, but for other NASA centers. And also just if you were also viewing this video, just talked about how like we submitted a JPO supply form. We heard about your counseling sessions. We heard about your bi-monthly newsletter, which shows publications of not only our procurement opportunities that we have, any procurement updates, or any of the small business initiatives or activities we plan on attending or hosting. So just let us know about that. You hear about all the things that we have to offer for you, and then bring those up, because it helps remind us that if you push to bring those up more, you can get more of those services from us, and then it will give you a better chance to be able to find points of contact that may even lead to one day be able to present in front of one of our division areas.
Excellent.
So I would definitely say that.
Matthew, we want to thank you for your time in the presentation, which will, again, all these presentations will be separately available in addition to the full program in the archive, which we'll have up in 24 to 48 hours. Thank you, Matthew.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And with me in the studio right now is Mark Goldschmidt, who's CEO of Goldschmidt & Associates, a VA Vector Prime contractor. Mark, thanks for joining
Dave,
us.
thank you.
Give us an overview and perspective of the message you wanted to get out today.
Today I want to take a look at bringing together some of the ideas that all of the speakers presented, particularly those from Stan and from Tony, and bring together some of the ideas that have been presented in the various Vets TV webinars.
Webcast webinars.
Webcasts.
Vernacular is so loosely used in
Essentially, I think the basic message is that veteran procurement within the federal government, and I'm going to talk mostly about the federal government, is a team sport. Guys like me have been there, done some of that, but I couldn't have gotten there and done some of that without the help of other people like Stan, Tony, and a number of other veteran-owned small businesses. Tony mentioned his GSA Mentor Protege program. I was a protege. I picked up a lot of good information, and one of the things you learn very quickly is what you don't know, and you get there quicker, and it's a lot easier to learn from somebody else's mistakes than to learn from yours. And it's a lot less painful, takes a lot less time, and can save a lot of energy. Stan mentioned pieces about financing. Understanding financing is extremely important for whatever phase of the business you're in. Stan mentioned some of the stuff of working capital, and that's pretty much what you need when you start out and you're going to go to where you hopefully make your first sale. There's some other pieces that may be included in working capital or other places, but there's mobilization funding. Now you've won something, all of a sudden you got to hire a bunch of people, and you don't have a mechanism necessarily for that capital. So it's either got to come out of typically the working capital, which means you've laid that out for a long time based upon your strategic plan, or it can come from other sources of funding. Then once you have that and you start to invoice people, you can do what Dave said before, factoring, asset-based lending, but essentially you're using your receivables as collateral. So how that is, how that works, and the strategies to get there comes back to the Mentor Protege program. Find somebody to help you. They can be in different industries and different areas. When I talked about the team sport, again, it's you got the players, you got the coaches, you got the managers, you got the trainers, the administrators, the front office, the commentators. You may say boo to the commentators, but there's all the folks there, and in each one of those areas are areas where you have to have some knowledge, you have to bring some experience, and the equivalents are marketing, business development, operations, HR, finance, money, and you can see the importance, and there are different levels of importance in different areas. So as you start looking at those pieces, one of the things that Stan has talked about, that Tom Lenny has talked about, is this idea of procurement ready. And what does that mean? And I'm going to say it means different things to different people. There's 3 different basic models that I'm aware of, probably more, or paths to get there. One is a who do you know, who do you like, or who do I like, who do I trust, and how do I get to you? And you can look and say, you know, there's a good old boy network out there, and they've done that, but they did their homework. So the real, and I hear from a lot of people, well, how am I going to compete against so-and-so because he's got this big, massive portfolio, and I'm just a little guy. Well, the thing to remember is those guys with the big, massive portfolios, 10, 15, 20 years ago, they were sitting in their garage in the same place that you are. And if they asked the question, how do I, they probably would still be in the garage. But if they asked the question, this is, or look at, this is how I can compete, and this is how I can build my business, you start getting into the concept of procurement ready. And it means different things at different times. If you're a startup, procurement ready may mean you can go for simplified acquisitions. Those are acquisitions that the government does below $150,000, set aside for small businesses. It's a low risk for the government, it's a low risk for you, and it's a chance to get in the door and earn your stripes. Then you may go on to other businesses, other contracts where you're doing $1 million contracts, $5 million, $10 million, but it's progression. And I've seen too many people that say, I can do the $5 million contract, but they have no way of being able to demonstrate that they can do that. So the who do you know, who do you like, et cetera, but there's a path to get there. 2 that, that I'm aware of, one was mentioned, which is the mentor protege. You can have somebody get you there, and it's not just the mentor protege, but it's subcontracting. It provides a very safe path to get and learn the ropes, learn the details, and at the same time earn that past performance, which is going to get you in the door for the next bigger thing. One of the companies that everybody I heard in IT say, how can I compete against? Systems Made Simple. Like a couple of years ago when I first met them, they were a very small business, under a couple of $1 million a year. They started out at VA with 1 half-time person and grew that into a multi-$100 million business. They did it, you can do it. So it's again learning from those that have been there, done that, and how do you do that? The other piece is looking at the context of market research. So when you look at you've all heard of Kingdomware and the Rule of 2. So as you look at that and how that's really implemented, there's a process that the program office goes through, that the contracting officer goes through, to start looking at what's your capability, what's your compatibility, and what's your risk. And I'll define those. Capability is your technical capability to do a job. Compatibility may be the contracts you have. It may be the relationships you have. It may be the certifications you have. It may require ISO. It may require CMMI. So when you start looking at opportunities and you start building this through the who do I know, this is how you can get in and start talking to people and understand this is what the requirement is. So if they require ISO and you don't have it, why pursue it unless you have a partner that can help you get there? So it's a short-term, long-term strategy of where you want to go and how you want to start off taking a small bite of the elephant as you go. When you start looking at things like the summit, you've got pieces where you've got education and you've got implementation and that cradle to grave that was talked about earlier. So when you start looking at that, you can start to get, what do I need to know? And again, the mentor comes in there for these are things you need to know. If you go down this path, these are the things that will bite you. And as you go through that from the education process and get into the implementation, you'll learn things from the implementation. And if you're like me, you're going to get a bunch of stuff wrong the first time you do it. And hopefully not the second time you do it. But you learn from your mistakes. And again, the mentor. It doesn't have to be a formal mentor-protege program. It could be just a friend. Well, what do you do in this situation? I wear out my phone talking to people, okay, here I am in this position. How do I dig myself out? First thing they usually say, stop digging. But after that, it's here's how you can put together the thing, and here's where you are, here's how you got there, and here's how you can reconcile the different pieces. The process of things like the summit is how you can start to integrate all of these pieces. One of the important pieces is how do you learn how to talk to a partner, how to talk to a government decision maker. There's certain things they look for, and it ain't, hi, I'm a service disabled vet, and I can do anything for anybody, anywhere, anytime, cheap. And if you don't believe people do that, sit in the booth of one of the decision makers, sit in the booth of one of the big guys, and you'll see that that's the predominant theme. Every once in a while, they'll find somebody that gets the message. Here's what's keeping you up at night. Here's what you need. And here's how I can solve your problem. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions.
Thank you, Mark. Al, I'm going to turn it over to you. Any questions from Mark? No.
There you go. You can't read my lips over there?
That's the most I've heard you say in a long time, Dave.
There you go.
Al.
Dave controls my mute button, and he made a point to make sure he can do that when he has the luxury to do so. So, anyways, what I was alluding to is this is the second time you've been on board. You're a Vector Prime. Definitely want you to talk a little bit about that. But ultimately, is the need to tell folks this is the 7th session, as David announced early on, all pre-summit training. You cannot do enough pre-deployment stuff. February 27, 28 is the deployment. And to that point, I heard JPL about hub zones. Veterans need to find out where hub zones. But here's the real crux of it all is our benefits from the VA. We're going to have a full-blown VA team out here that's going to do 2 days of claims. Because if you're just a veteran, you might have a disability. We're going to have that ability to take your claim and so forth. But tell us about the Vector Prime update. Do you have anything?
For Vector, the primary issue right now is the open protests. There are 2 current protests that are open. One that was filed back November, which a decision is due within about 30 days. And that was protesting only one of the service groups. Then there was another protest that was filed about a month ago that addresses a protest for all 6 of the service groups. Because it was a GAO protest, it was filed timely, which is within 5 days. There is a stay so that they can't start until they resolve these 2 GAO protests. There's also a couple of agency protests, but they do not create a stay. So once these 2 GAO protests are resolved, they will be able to implement a notice to proceed, and you'll start seeing efforts that come out on Vector. The initial emphasis, it's going to be, I'm told it's going to move slowly as they build up the expertise within the contracting group. It'll be those groups that are supported by the Strategic Acquisition Center, which is in Fredericksburg and Frederick. And that is, to a large degree, the headquarters operations. They'll go a couple of service groups at a time. And once they start building up that expertise and in the contracting shop and the management, then they'll start opening it up to a wider audience and other VA opportunities. What I would encourage you to do, particularly if you want to join a team and you're not a prime, is do your marketing with the folks in VA that you know. If there's opportunities in any of learn what the service groups are. There's Service Group 1, which is basically procurement and project management. Service Group 2, which is analysis. Some other pieces. Service Group 3 is training. Service Group 4 is your outreach. 5 is logistics. And 6 is HR. So as you know those, know which area you fit in, look at the list of the primes in that area, and that's posted in multiple places. Contact those people where you have something to offer. I'm in service groups 2 and 3, which is the analysis and training. So don't contact me with HR requirements. be focused. And don't contact me and say, I want crumbs from your table, I just want to join your team. You need to bring something to the table in terms of capability or opportunities, and you'll get a much more warmer welcome, whether it be from me or from any of the other 68 primes.
It's very good. And in a case like Joe Busligo from the biosecurity company, he would look under the supplier category of the 6 areas and the service groups. And I must say, I'm impressed that you listed them off like that. You knew them pretty well. That's very good. Al, any other questions for Mark?
No, Mark, I know that you have reasons you can't come to the summit, but we definitely want to welcome you back at VETS because you provide a wealth of information, you keep us current, and you keep us on point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Al, so we'll close it out. Give us an overview. And Mark, before you leave, people want to find out more about Goldschmidt and Associates. Where should they go?
www.goldschmidt, GOLDSCHMITT, that's Tango, no D.com.
Okay. We'll put that up on the screen, and thank you again. Al, any final thoughts, especially as it relates to the summit coming up on the 27th and 28th of February out there in California?
Well, Dave, as Mark and everybody else talked about, you and I have been doing this for quite some time, hearts into this. Therefore, we got to get the word out. For 7 months, we've imparted information. As they say, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. For the summit, it's 2 days. It's a 10-year celebration. Dave's been around with this since its inception. I've known way before that. So for the summit, come prepared. Don't hem and haw. Take notes from what you heard for the past 7 months. Put together your spiel. Break bread, because we're going to feed everybody for free. There is no cost for this summit. It's already paid for. So come join us. JPL is going to be there. I got a couple of CEOs I've been talking to nationally who I want them to tell their story and how they became a multi-million-dollar business. So that's still being developed. Dave and I are going to see if we can do a live webcast from his position, and there in Oceanside, California. We're just minutes away from Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton, close to the ocean. So come see us. The board of directors of the Southwest will be there in full force, coming in from D.C. So again, Dave, thank you. Your contribution to this country is phenomenal, and I thank you for that.
All right, thank you, Al. And we also want to thank our sponsors for the whole series that have sponsored it, including Joe Busligo from the Biosecurity Company, and a new sponsor that's stepping up to the plate to outreach to veteran-owned companies and service-disabled veteran-owned companies that are looking for capital financing, a company called Amerifi. They're at www.amerifi.com. Please tell them, first thing you say is that you're a veteran-owned business or a service-disabled veteran-owned business, and we referred you over there because that way they'll know that you're going to get special treatment. I'm Dave Gardy here for this, again, the 7th in a row Veteran Entrepreneur Training Series webcast. We'll hopefully look forward to seeing you. We'll probably be webcasting from here, but seeing everybody out at the summit in California. Thanks for joining us from our studios near Washington, D.C. at US Vets TV.
Two little girls on a mission.
You can change the world one heart at a time.
Inspired by a neighbor home from the battlefront of Iraq and severely injured, Rachel and Kelsey Oken wanted to thank him and all our troops and their families for their selfless sacrifices with post-secondary scholarships.
And I've been able to see really that any person can make a difference. And when what you give out to the world, you get back 10 times.
Almost a dozen years later, their Thanks USA charity has blossomed into a national enterprise. The Oken sisters are in college themselves.
But I think just growing up with the charity and with you and getting the chance to pursue my education has made me realize how ridiculously special that is.
And they continue marshaling Thanks USA fundraising efforts, golf and tennis tournaments, and other major events.
Thanks USA does more, in my judgment, than provide scholarships to military dependents. You transform lives, and you demonstrate to our military families, and this is important, you demonstrate to our military families that you are as committed to them as they are to our nation. It's a very important message.
With that commitment, military family members are today reaching heights too many consider unreachable. Like Taylor Curry, whose Army Sergeant dad was killed in Iraq in 2007 and whose story attracted media attention.
22-year-old Taylor Curry always had his heart set on attending a private college, but didn't know how he'd afford it. That was before he heard about the nonprofit called Thanks USA.
Taking care of the financial aspect of going to college made it easier for me to focus on my studies as opposed to worrying about how to pay for the school.
So far, 4,200 scholarships have helped this Thanks USA family fulfill their aspirations, thanks to more than $13 million in donations.
The scholars do unbelievable work. They're nurses and teachers and therapists who minister to people with PTSD.
It's helping us not only further our education, but helping us grow as individuals and helping us become leaders for our future generation. It's absolutely amazing.
Among my family, I'm the first to receive a college education from a four-year institution, and it's a very rewarding experience. It's something that both my parents have hoped that I would achieve and really supported me in achieving, and it's something that the military has also really helped me achieve through this scholarship program.
And thanks to you, I am one step closer to achieving my dream.
Fulfilling dreams and filling jobs. Businesses are increasingly looking to Thanks USA to close enormous labor gaps by creating pipelines to careers. It's a program gaining critical recognition.
The corporations that support Thanks USA with charitable contributions are actually starting to embrace a program that we started called Pathways for Patriots, where they're mentoring the military spouses and kids while they're in school, providing them with internship opportunities while they're in school, with the eye on employment after they graduate.
More than a thank you. You, Americans everywhere, are fostering promising futures.
To us, it means that they recognize our efforts, the sacrifices we make, the time that we spend supporting our family, whether they're here or abroad, and it really reflects highly upon the amount of effort that we put forth, and we really respect and are gracious for that.
Thank you to everyone who has supported Thanks USA endlessly and tirelessly and graciously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all that you do at Thanks USA.